Okay, that's right. So we've not missed much, right? All right. So strategic allocation is when you're assigning one strategy towards one asset, and timely you're doing a review of that, whether that goal is valid to you, whether the strategy still applies to you. For example, imagine you're saving money to buy a car. Okay, and after 2 years of saving the money, you realize that you don't need a car, right? So after 2 years, you can always chuck this goal out of your goal card and you can put in a new goal card, right? So something like that you can do. That is strategic. And for your initial 0 to 5 crore, I recommend you do strategic allocation, because this way you are closer to your goals and you know where you're using the money. Once you're crossing that 5 crore mark, then you can move to tactical asset allocation. Tactical asset allocation is that with your net worth, you are quickly changing your investments, right? You are being very dynamic with your investment. In this, the formula is very simple. You put a major chunk of your money based on your age in equity, and the formula is 100 minus age, right? So I am 35 years old. 100 minus 35, 65% of my assets I will put in equity, and the rest 35 I will put in debt, liquid, gold, real estate. But 65% of my asset will be in equity. Okay, this is also recommended for people who have no goals of buying a home, no goals of buying gold, right? There are these men, or there are these people who are just in the beginning of their career. They're like, okay, I have a home because I have ancestral home, I'm going to live with my parents. I have enough gold because I'm the single child, or we are two children, parents have given us enough gold, right? So like me and my husband kind of we are following this tactical asset allocation because we have a lot of ancestral property, number one. Number two, we have enough gold that going forward in our life, we don't want to buy more gold, right? Once in a while, out of some maybe some fancy item we see, we will buy. But as such, we are not investing separately in gold for our kids, because we have enough of that gold we got in our marriage and from our parents, and also I think that's sufficient going forward. So we are following this tactical, wherein everything that we are earning, 60 to 70% of that we are putting towards equity, and the rest 30% we are putting in Sukanya, PPF, or some kind of FDs, right? That's why most of my money is going towards equity mutual funds or direct equity investing, because we feel that strategic doesn't make sense for us. We already have fund for our kids, we already have home for our retirement, so all of those goals are taken care, thanks to our parents, you can say. But most of those tension wale goals are actually taken care, so we are now following full tactical, right? And this is very dynamic. As soon as market falls, we become more aggressive towards putting towards equity, right? And when market is at all time high, we move a bit towards debt, and we start making more, we start putting more money towards debt. So that is your tactical. Now the third one is rebalancing. Rebalancing is not an asset allocation technique, but it is how you are creating a balance between your assets, right? So how this happens is, for example, let's talk about gold. From 2010 to 2020, not 2010, mostly 2014. 2014 to 2020, gold gave nearly no returns, no returns, like very basic returns. It gave somewhat equal to FD or less than that. But currently, from 2023 to now, 2025, gold has given almost 80% returns, which means to say someone who's purchased gold in 2013, 2014, like me, most of my gold is from 2013 to 2014. That gold has suddenly doubled in the past 3 years because of the market movement, right? So even our net worth has gone a bit heavy on the gold side. So what is the option that I have now? When I do a rebalancing of my portfolio, I will see that gold is suddenly taking 40% of my net worth. Maybe real estate is taking 30% of my net worth. I want to bring this down to 30%. So what I do is I sell 10% of gold and I put it towards equity to balance equity. This is rebalancing. So that you are following your percentage of 20, 30, 40, 10, something like that. Okay, 20% being debt, 30% being gold, 40% being equity, 10% being cash. How do you get this percentage? I'll be showing you how to do a risk analysis, and based on that, I'll also share with you. I think we'll be talking about this again in depth after we are done with mutual funds, right? Towards the end of this whole mutual fund, we are going to be doing this again in depth for asset allocation. For now, you remember this is strategic, and then there is a tactical, and then there is a rebalancing that you do when one part of your asset becomes heated up, like equity. Equity was really heated up in 2024 mid. So we had to sell a bit of our equity to move towards debt because it was becoming unbalanced, right? So that we did in 2024. Now we are thinking of doing it for gold because gold is also a bit heated up and we have to move a bit of money towards equity. So this is your rebalancing wherein annually you will have to sell some part of your assets and put it somewhere else to balance your overall risk. Now let's move to mutual fund. Okay, now this is going to be your introduction. Now today, next 4 or 5 slides, we're just going to do concentrate on introduction towards mutual fund. What is the spirit behind creating this fund, and why is it so important? Okay, so I'm going to start with this very small example. Now, say all of us want to invest 100 rupees. But Kirtana says, no, I want to invest 1,000 rupees. And then IC is like, no, I want to invest 1 lakh rupees. But others in class, we are like, no, we have only 100 rupees each to invest. Okay. And then you are like, okay, so now we want to invest varied amount of money, but our end goals are kind of similar. All of us want this money for, let's say, retirement. All of us want this money for retirement, but our initial starting points are all different. Okay. And then there is another problem. The another problem is we all lack time and resources to take decisions. Okay. One thing we all agree about that whenever you want to take decisions, there is a time factor that is involved and there is some research factor that is involved when you want to make decision, right? Even if you have to send your children to school, you need time to send them to school because you have to go check out 5 different schools, meet different principals, understand the different education system that is out there, Montessori, CBSE, ICSE, and all of that. So for every decision that you want to make, there is some kind of time that is involved and there is some kind of resources that is required, right? So for me to go and send my daughter to school, I will also need to resources of meeting people. I need money that, to travel and everything. So for every decision there is time and there is resources, but all of us as a class, we don't have the time and we don't even have the resources to research and make a retirement plan. Okay. So then I approach you guys. I say that, hey, look, I am a manager. You all can give me your money and I will invest your funds on your behalf and I will take a small salary. Okay. So all of us are like, okay, wow, great. But I have 100 rupees, I have 1,000, and someone says I have 10,000, and someone says I have 1 lakh, and someone says I have 10 lakhs. So then I say, okay, cool. I'm your manager. I will adjust all of you. But only thing that I want is I want your end goals to be same. So then all of us are like, yeah, our end goals are same because we all want it for retirement. Which means we all want it for long term, 5 to 20, 30 years. Long term is minimum starts at 5 years. Remember that. Medium term is 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 years. Long term is 5 years plus, and short term is less than 3 years. Remember these tenures when you come to mutual fund. 3 years, less than 3 years is your short term. 3 to 7 years is your medium term, and 5 years plus is your long term. Okay. So we're like, no, we're all long-term investors. We want this money in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So you can please take this money and we are ready to pay you a salary. This whole agreement is called as mutual funds. This is exactly what happens in mutual fund. So there is a trust. Trust is a legal entity formed under Trust Act. So all the mutual fund companies are not really companies. First, a trust is formed. Okay. The trust then appoints the trustees, and these trustees appoint the various people who are involved in AMC. Okay, well, I'll show you the structure also. No need to worry about that. So what is a mutual fund? A mutual fund is actually a investment vehicle where money is pooled in by a large number of investors, right? So imagine this piggy bank is a mutual fund, and then you have a large number of investors who are pooling in their money to invest over here. It is just a very big, large piggy bank in which anyone can come and put money. And this piggy bank is being managed by a fund manager who then invest according to the end goals. This fund is managed by a professional fund manager. All the investors have a goal while investing, and the money is invested across asset classes. That's the best part about mutual fund, that today in mutual fund in India, a mutual fund can invest in equity, it can invest in bond, it can invest in money market, it can invest in your RBI bonds, it can invest in real estate, it can literally invest anywhere and everywhere we want it to invest. So if there is an asset class, you will find a mutual fund for it, right? So we can literally make our complete portfolio just based on mutual funds, because via mutual funds we can have exposure to every asset class starting as low as 250 rupees per month. 250 rupees per month, right? That is the current basic starting point in good mutual funds. Otherwise, it starts at 100 rupees per month, but the good mutual funds have a threshold of 250 rupees. US based mutual funds have a threshold of 5,000 rupees per month, right? So, with very, very less money, you can literally invest in China, you can invest in Japan, you can invest in Singapore, you can invest in US, you can invest in India, you can invest in bonds, you can invest in corporate FDs, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in REITs via mutual fund, you can invest in silver via mutual fund, you can invest in gold via mutual fund. You can also invest in a bouquet of mutual funds via mutual fund. So there is a fund manager whose job is to only invest in different kind of mutual funds, right? So there are a lot of different ways you can invest via a mutual fund while keeping your money safe. Why is your money safe? Because we have a trust, and in India the mutual fund rules are very, very stringent. We'll talk about those rules also. Okay. Each investor then owns units which represent a portion of your holding. So remember, some of us invested 100 rupees, some of us invested 1,000 rupees, and some people invested 5,000. So what the fund manager does is he says that, okay, I am going to take a total of 1 crore rupees and I am dividing this 1 crore rupees in 1 crore units. So when 1 crore rupees is divided into 1 crore units, 1 rupee is equal to 1 unit. Am I right? It is just like cutting your pizza slice. So there is one big pizza we have made at home, and then we are four of us. So I tell my daughters, I'm going to cut this pizza in 8 equal halves, and each of us are going to get 2 halves. Same thing the fund manager also does here, right? So there's this whole big pizza of 1 crore rupees, and the fund manager says, I'm going to divide this pizza into 1 crore units, and every fund holder is going to get 1 unit at the value of 1 rupee. So person who's invested 100 rupees, how many units does he get?
100. 100.
And person who's invested 10 lakh rupees, how many units he gets?
10 lakh.
10 lakh unit. Fine. So that is understood, right? So this is how units, everyone becomes owners of unit, and the mutual fund holder is called as a unit holder. Okay. So your units will represent the portion of the holding. Okay. And then there is a new concept of net asset value, which I'm going to discuss after 2 slides. For now, just write it down. It's called net asset value or NAV. What does NAV mean? We will discuss now. But before that, some other important terminologies that we should discuss. Unit, we have already discussed. It is your pizza slice, right? So pizza slice is called as unit. What is the face value? So the fund manager said, I am going to take 1 crore rupees, and that I have divided into 1 crore units, and each unit is worth 1 rupee. This 1 rupee is called as face value. The initial value at which the mutual fund units are given to people, that is called as fund value. Sorry, face value. Recurring expenses. Now, I said, right, that this fund manager will actually take salary to manage fund. So imagine this fund manager is also going to have an office. He will also have to pay some government taxes. He will also have to pay some electricity bill. He will also have to pay some demat charges because he is going to manage all the funds. All of these are ultimately expenses of running a business, right? So expenses that are occurring again and again are called as recurring expenses. And every mutual fund company has expenses. These are simply your expenses of running the business. Yeah, what is face value? So I said, right, that our fund manager says I will take initially 1 crore rupees, and this 1 crore rupees I'm divided in 1 crore units. So each unit is worth 1 rupee. Initial worth is 1 rupee. This 1 rupee is called as face value. It is the initial value at which a unit is offered to people. Expense ratio. So when these expenses are expressed to profit, it is called as expense ratio. There is a whole different slide on expense ratio, so we will come back to it again. But for now, expense ratio is the percentage of expenses of running a mutual fund. So we agreed to hire this fund manager, and we also agree that he will have a lot of expenses. These expenses are expressed in a percentage. Like when we do our budgeting, we do a 50, 30, 20, right? So we know 50% of our monthly is going towards needs. So when someone asks what is your fixed expenses, so you'll say 50% of my monthly income is my fixed expenses. The same thing, Ramesh. The same thing done via for mutual fund is called as expense ratio. What percentage of overall income are they spending to run the business? That's called as expense ratio. TTM, trailing 12 month. What does trailing 12 month mean? What month are we in currently? September. So for us, trailing 12 month will be October 24 to September 25. This is called as trailing 12 month, TTM. What is financial year? Financial year is April to March. What is calendar year? Jan to December. Finance has given you another concept, trailing 12 month. Okay, which means immediate 12 past 12 month, which is your trail. So this is also a key factor in any kind of research to see where your asset class is going. Net asset value. So net asset value we will be doing, right? AMC. What is an AMC? So this trust is formed which is going to manage mutual fund. This trust then creates an AMC. AMC is your asset management company under Companies Act. Trust is formed under Trust Act. Why so many things are formed? Well, there are two reasons for it, right? The actual reason is that, see, a lot of our laws are still redundant. We are still following laws from 1900 and, pre-independence, and we're also following a lot of laws from 1800s, right? So Trust and Companies Act are still getting carried from that era also. So one reason is that. Another reason is division of duty. We are a country of 150 crore, and people are so creative in doing frauds, siphoning money, and all of that, that at every point there is so much of red tapeism, there is so much of abundance of paperwork that is created, that a lot of people give up even before going and doing the paperwork, because there is so much of paperwork involved. Now suppose if I want to start a mutual fund, I really have to be very passionate to start a mutual fund, because the paperwork itself is so lengthy that a lot of people give up there only. The same problem I'm facing now in financial advisory. There is so much paperwork involved, like literally every day there is a new thing that I have to form, fill, find, uh, do. That now I realize that a lot of people give up in the first 2 months because there is so much paperwork involved. Similarly, to create a mutual fund, there is so much hierarchy involved that I feel government only wants very, very serious and committed people to come into the business. So if you're not committed, if you're not serious, looking at the paperwork involved only, you will give up, right? And that's why kind of the mutual fund industry only has about, I think they have about 30 odd companies into the business in such a big country, right? While you talk about FMCG, there are more than 1200, 1300 companies easily that are into FMCG business, right? Making grains and everything. So I feel that this whole hierarchy has been done with two reasons. One, to demotivate non-serious people from starting the mutual fund, looking at the paperwork involved, and number two, a lot of laws are also redundant, but chalte ja raha hai, right? So that's the thing. So what is your asset management company? Asset management company is that company under the trust to whom we are giving the money to invest. Okay, so we are not giving the money to trust. Okay, we are giving it to the AMC. The money will always go towards the AMC, not to the trust. Asset under management. So what is AUM? AUM का मतलब होता है asset under management. AUM simply means how much money your fund manager is managing. So our fund manager says he can maximum manage 1 crore rupees, right? So what is AUM under our fund manager? It will be 1 crore, right? What will be AUM under AMC? So there is AUM under AMC. So one AMC can have multiple fund manager 1, fund manager 2, fund manager 10, fund manager 20. All of them will have their own AUMs. A sum total of all the AUMs is asset under management for AMC. It simply means how much money that AMC is managing. Okay. So there are two kinds of AUM. One is AUM under the fund manager. Other is AUM under the company. Okay. Mark to market, we will discuss this again. Portfolio. Portfolio is simply bouquet of your eggs. So where are you keeping your different eggs? That whole thing is called as your portfolio. This can have gold, this can have real estate, this can have your cash, this can have your RBI bonds, this can have your FD, this can have your demat account, this can have your sovereign gold bond. All of this together is called as portfolio. Okay, so your portfolio means where all you've invested the money. It just simply is not restricted towards stock. in normal parlance, what happens is whenever you talk about portfolio, people think it is only about stocks. But in actual, the bigger definition is sum total of your holding, sum total of your net worth, sum total of the different asset classes you're invested in. Portfolio of stock means what are the stocks you're holding under your stock portfolio, right? So this is your subset of the bigger stuff. Liquidity. So liquidity we already know from so many classes we have done. Liquidity simply means ease of converting your asset into cash. How quickly you can convert your asset into cash or how much cash you are holding. That is called as liquidity, right? For example, imagine you're very thirsty and you're at your home and the only thing that is there in your house is 10 kg ice block. Can you quench your thirst? You need liquid water, right? Same thing with money. So if you have 500 crore net worth, but everything is jam made into ice. If you watch Frozen Part 1, there comes a point, right, where there is ice everywhere and the villagers don't even have water to drink. So imagine yourself in that situation where you have assets everywhere, but you don't have 500 rupees maybe to buy vegetable. That is called lack of liquidity. And that's why liquidity is so important, right? That you need liquid water to quench your thirst ultimately. So you need liquid cash to pay for your bills. Your assets and net worth will not pay for your bills if the liquidity is not there. So you have to also remember while creating your mutual fund portfolio that a part of your mutual fund portfolio is always liquid. It can always be converted into cash. That's why you have something called as liquid mutual fund. I'm sure everyone knows about liquid mutual fund thanks to Beta Saving Challenge, right? So why is liquid mutual fund so important? Because it can immediately be there to quench your thirst. It is your liquid water. Okay. So that's why liquidity of your mutual fund portfolio is also very important. So a lot of my clients, when they say no, they want gold for investment, we suggest that they have ETF also. We tell them that you have, I think we've already done gold, so I can talk more about gold in these. So you have ETF, you have a bit of coins also, and not put everything in gold bar and gold coin, simply because ETF is more liquid than gold bar and gold coin. So if you need to sell some part of your gold portfolio, you can easily convert that into money thanks to the liquidity which ETF offers, right? So that's what is meant by liquidity. Now, organization structure of AMC. Now, this is very, very interesting because this will help you understand number one, the red tapeism which is there behind creating a mutual fund. Number two, how safe and secure your money is in a mutual fund because you'll see the exact hierarchy. This is not something you really have to remember, but it is something if you understand, it will help you create kind of a safety and security towards an AMC company. Okay. So, firstly, there is a sponsor. He is the person who is starting the mutual fund. He's the first person whose idea it is, and he is the first person who's putting the initial money. Because if you have to create an organization, you have to do the paperwork, and that paperwork has to come from a real person. It cannot come from a computer, it cannot come from a group of employees. There has to be one initial person who's initiating that idea. That person is called a sponsor. For example, for your he's the okay, no problem, Kirtan, that's fine. So your sponsor is that first person who is ideating this whole organization structure. For a very, very hypothetical example, let's assume Ratan Tata was sponsor of something called as Tata AMC. Okay. So what would have Ratan Tata done? He would have done all the paperwork. Of course, he will have a team and everything, but he is the ideator, he is the initiator, and he will appoint two people. One is he will appoint the trustees who will create the trust, and these trustees will also create an AMC. These trustees are people who a sponsor appoints. They are 5 to 10 real individuals, okay, who are going to form an AMC and who are going to appoint the initial employees of AMC. So this AMC will require an office, this AMC will require director, this AMC will require fund managers. A lot of initial employees are required under this AMC. That appointment is going to be done by the trustees. So sponsor doesn't come and do all of this job. Sponsor creates the trust, he gives the initial money and he says Tata bye bye, now trustees you take care. So what is trustees job? Trustees job is to form the AMC, to hire the initial employees. Who are the initial employees? The initial employees are number one, compliance officer. A compliance officer is that person who will be a bridge between trustee AMC and SEBI, AMFI, RBI. So when you're creating an AMC, you have to find different documents with SEBI, different documents with AMFI, and different documents with RBI. These filing have to be absolutely 100% accurate, 100% true, 100% all of that, fair, right, and everything, right? Who checks this? A compliance officer will check, right? And a compliance officer is required everywhere. Even when I'm going to make a financial advisory, I will have one compliance officer who will be a part of my financial advisory as my employee, will be taking care of all the paperwork. As an advisor, I don't want to, I can also do it, but it's like doing too many things at a time. So we always appoint a different compliance officer, because if you go wrong in compliance, there are very heavy fines from all of these three. Heavy fines include monetary, it includes non-monetary also by form of jail, and it includes even fines that could debar us, which means debar us from participating in any mutual fund business for X number of years, right? So because the fines are so big, you always need a compliance manager. The next important employee is your fund manager. So we remember, right? The fund manager will be like, I will invest on your behalf. So this is exactly what fund manager does. He will invest on the behalf of the investors, and paperwork is taken care by compliance officer. Then you have an operations and customer service officer also. Who is a customer service officer? He's taking care of KYC. He's taking care of the initial signatures and all of that initial paperwork that has to happen between AMC and the investor, right? Then you have sales and marketing officers, and then you have other functions that is taken care by finance, admin, human resource, and you need a technology officer also. So in currently in all the mutual funds, you will have a CTO also, right? Chief Technology Officer. What does a CTO do? He will take care of all the back end automation, online KYC, what kind of computer tech we want, where do we want to store the DMAT and everything, right? So these are the basic initial hiring of people a trustee has to do. And these rules are actually not some hypothetical, some fancy rules that are made by people like us. These rules have been given by AMFI. Okay, so this complete structure is being given by AMFI in compliance with SEBI and Companies Act. Okay, so this is actually a organization structure based on a statute. It is not some fancy organization structure, made by some MBA graduate or something, right? Then after these guys are hired, you have further more people who get hired in a mutual fund company. First of that is an analyst. Remember, recently I cleared research analyst paper. So this is what we do. You do an analysis of an equity share, whether that share is worth investing or not. So that is what your research analyst do. Then you have actual fund manager. What does a fund manager does? Based on the analyst report, he takes a buy, sell, hold decision. Okay. Then after he takes the decision, he sends his report to dealer. What does a dealer do? Dealer will actually make the purchase. So are you seeing that for every stage you have a different person doing a different duty, right? An analyst will actually do the research. He will forward his file to a fund manager. Fund manager will read an analyst file and he will make a decision. Do I buy? Do I sell? Do I hold? Once he had made the decision, he will send his file to a dealer. Okay, buy shares of X Limited for so much rupees. Then the dealer will punch in the order. The fund manager will not punch in the order. The dealer will punch in the order. Once the dealer has punched in the order, the whole order goes to an RTA, Register and Transfer Agency. What does an RTA do? RTA does all the stamp duty work. Because the ownership of that share has to be moved to the AMC. Ultimately, AMC is the owner of those shares that has been purchased on our behalf, right? So that RTA does. Then these shares are kept under custody of someone else. So whatever shares we are buying, whatever units we are buying is not kept under custody of an AMC. It is kept in the custody of a custodian. Okay, it's kept under a custody of custodian. Do you know any custodian in India? Do you know any name of a custodian? No? Have you heard about CDSL?
Who?
CDSL.
Yes, I've heard.
You've heard about CDSL? Have you heard about NSDL?
Yes.
So these two are two custodians in India. All our demat shares, whether you buy in Zerodha, whether you buy in ICICI, whether you buy in Angel Broking, it's not kept with these companies. These companies are just giving us the tech. All our shares, all our assets is actually kept with these two government companies. CDSL and NSDL are two government companies. They are the custodian of all the demat assets, all the dematerialized stuff that we have. Even our sovereign gold bond that you hold in demat is actually kept safe with them. It's not kept with these Zerodha, ICICI, and Angel Brokings. So whenever you are buying a mutual fund, the asset is ultimately kept with these custodians. So tomorrow, if all of these people flee India, your assets are still safe with custodians. They cannot take these and run away. Now you're understanding the division of duty here. Yeah, how safe it is being made in India. Someone else is analyzing, someone else is becoming a fund manager, someone else is actually being a dealer. Who is a dealer at a casino? The person who's giving out the cards and chips, right? He's not the one who's playing the game. People who are playing the game are different. Just imagine a casino. Owner is your sponsor, right? Then
Hmm.
there are those manager in your casino who are managing the overall casino. They don't care about what is happening in different slot machines. Then there are these fund manager and dealers. There are dealers who are taking care of the slot machines, and then there are dealers who are actually distributing the cards and playing different kind of card games, right? So these are those dealers who are actually punching in orders on behalf of fund manager report, and fund manager is taking the decision on behalf of analyst report. Okay, so analyst is not bothered about what a fund manager is doing. He just has to make his report and forward to him. Whether the fund manager buys or sells based on analyst report is totally a fund manager's responsibility. And these people cannot be the same person. They have to be different groups of people. A dealer cannot be a fund manager. A dealer cannot be a fund manager in different AMC companies also. They have to be appointed only with one company at a time, and they can only be responsible of dealer duties, right? So there cannot be an overlap of duties in fund in your AMC. Then what does an RTA do? Every time a dealer buys and sells shares, the ownership has to change. And RTA does all that paperwork with respect to stamp duty, paying government taxes. उसके पहले बनाना खा लो, पानी पी लो, पानी पिया, पानी पी के टोमेटो खा लो, डायपर चेंज कर लो, पैंट्स पहन लो, हाई फाई, तो सो रही है, ठीक Okay, आप पैंट पहन लो. Okay. Yeah. So then RTA does all your paperwork so that the this is transferred, ownership is transferred and everything. Then you have a custodian who's actually keeping the safe, the money, the shares, everything with them. Okay. So the custodian finally takes care of the safety, and there are only two custodians in India. One is your NSDL, other is your CDSL. Then you have something called as a fund accounting. Who is a fund accounting? He's an accountant or he's a CA who's maintaining the books of accounts. Money came in, money went out. So he is doing the basic accounting, right? He is the Munimji of your AMC company. He is doing all the accounting work. These guys are not doing the accounting work. How is the payment to debtors happening? How is the payment to your whoever is happening? Everything. मीठी दवाई ले लो दीदी को बोलो मीठा दवाई दे देंगे. Your fund accounting is being done by your CA and your group of accountants. Then you have a cash management team also. What is the cash management team doing? They are collecting the money, they are taking care of check, they are taking care of bank account, and they are releasing the check. So their only job is to manage the cash. It could be via check, it could be RTGS, IMPS, whatever, but they are doing the bank and cash management. Then you have in the sales and marketing, you have a distribution team. All of this sales and marketing team are responsible for all kind of your marketing campaign, investor education campaign, and everything, right? Because all of these AMC companies, according to AMFI rules, are supposed to run free investor awareness programs. All of this is being taken care by sales and marketing team. Okay. Then you have your finance and administration team, you have your human resource development team, and your technology team. So these other functions are just like your other corporate companies that require other ancillary functions. Okay. So far, is the structure of an AMC clear? It's not your very simple, uncomplicated kind of a private limited company, but it's a very intricate step by step, a very detailed. You have your, it's a huge delegation of duties that happens inside of an AMC.
So basically, if I am a sponsor, I have to have all this structure. So I just make a company out of this, is what we are saying.
So I am a sponsor. I will make a trust,
Hmm.
appoint the trustees, and say Tata bye bye. Now it is job of trustee to appoint, make an AMC.
So how does it benefit me as a sponsor?
I am passionate about the business.
And I get the money from the public to fuel it?
So,
How is it?
yeah. So, how does the money division happens is, as an investor, when I'm investing in the company, suppose I'm a mutual fund holder, and all of these people get salary, right? After division of all the salary, after division of, so there are again separate rules. How much money you have to give back to people. So there are very complicated rules. And at the end of it, whatever is left over, will, if you want, we'll do a balance sheet of an AMC also. That's fine by me. It goes towards an AMC, and the board of director of AMC can choose to pay a little bit to the trustees. Otherwise, trustees don't get anything, they just get the increase in net worth. There is no real money actually moving towards the trustees. It is only increase in net worth. This that is happening.
Oh, so the sponsor has an
Sponsor
initial
on
fund.
paper doesn't get anything other than a salary, but otherwise he gets an increase in net worth because his company is growing and the value of the company is growing. It's ultimately, if you see, it's fictitious asset. It's not a real money that is moving towards a sponsor.
Okay, so it's if I'm the sponsor, then I have to form a trust, and then I say bye. My trustees do an
Yeah.
AMC, they form an AMC, and the AMC
Gives
down below
trustee the
has
salary.
sorry.
They give the trustee the salary because ultimately all the documents go to trustee for reading. For so they're like the head of the family, right? A head of the family after retirement will not actively seek salary from their son, do they? They don't, right? They just want their son to do better. So it's exactly like that. So these guys, they just pay some kind of salary or some kind of a stipend or some kind of, honorary. You are the trustees here,
Yes.
take every month something. But otherwise, these jobs are supposed to be selfless on paper. They are supposed to be selfless. Only these guys get salaries. So there's a
Okay.
very common joke in our finance circles. From an AMC, only a fund manager is making money. Rest, no one else is making money.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the joke.
Okay. So once the AMC is formed, then the AMC further does whatever the departments, and it's
Yeah,
basically a normal company running, is what we are
yeah,
at.
yeah. So from here is there's a company which is running according to
Running.
SEBI and AMFI rules. Over here, it is your selfless deed, selfless kind of a work that you're doing for your world. That okay, I want an AMC. I mean, if you're a sponsor, I don't think so. Money is a problem for you, right? That's why I took Ratan Tata's example. For him, it is only happiness of growing his net worth, and most of this net worth is actually based on the valuation of asset management companies, which is also fictitious. What if tomorrow they can all go bankrupt in one night, right? The share market can fall in one night. So
Hmm.
ultimately, it's all a chain of fictitious assets and a fictitious net worth, which is very big on paper. But in reality, if you go and go to sell, maybe you will not get that same money. So these two, I feel it is 100% selfless. From here is where the money is moving.
Hmm. Interesting.
Okay, it's same like your NGOs, right? When you're making an NGO, the
Hmm.
trustees don't come there to make money. We want the people of NGO. So it is that same trust which is getting formed with the same trust which makes your NGOs. The same trust is making an AMC. It is
But
under the
me,
same trust act.
but many a times they say the trustee and the NGOs, the way they work, like if you see, I mean, they're always making money. Like uh, education has trustees, right? The schools, the colleges, they have trustees, but it's difficult because they're always it's under the table dealing, which they're doing for us to do
That
business.
happens. That happens here also. No, I'm not supposed to say it.
Yeah, so that's why I was a little confused when you said selfless. I was like,
So I said supposed to be selfless. So all of these are created keeping in mind that we are in a socialist economy.
huh.
Imagine 1800s and 1900s India was a socialist economy. And all of these acts were created back then, assuming that they are fit for a socialist economy. But now we are in a capitalist economy. So they make the trust under the Trust Act and then they make the AMC under the Companies Act. So this is where your socialism is coming into picture.
Hmm.
इनिशियल स्टार्टिंग तो सब सारे एनजीओ का ट्रस्ट एक्ट से होता है.
So basically, it's a trust act, and then the things flow. I mean, for me to
Yeah.
form a trust, whatever, and then everything.
People find way to twist rules, but you'll have to
And
keep thinking about how they are twisting the rules.
and then we come somewhere in the end, buying all this from
Yeah,
them.
yeah. So this structure is to explain. No, I want a sticker here.
So where would a Zerodha or an ICICI feature out here?
Technology.
Oh, okay.
Zerodha is technically only a tech platform which is giving you a website to buy and sell shares. They have an RTA, they have a custodian. Custodian is your CDSL and NSDL. RTA is your KRAs. There are different kind of KRAs in India who are doing the paperwork, and they are mainly a tech company.
Okay, so all our DMATs and everything are managed by the technology, is it?
Yeah, all of these are tech company. Now, ICICI, when you talk about AMC, which is giving us this ICI DMAT, they do have internal analysts, fund managers, but there are a lot of companies involved. If you go to the ICICI, that DMAT website, under the one day I'll maybe do a walk through that website also. You'll see the names of all of the companies that are associated with that one tech platform. Everything is done under different company names. We just see the brand name or the logo ICICI, thinking that they're all maintained by one company, but there are like 200 different companies doing that work. So technically, these big business houses, for every different job, they form a different company so that the liability is distributed, because the liability under Companies Act is very limited. It doesn't affect the other companies. So to give analyst, they will prepare, make one company. For fund managers, they will prepare one company, and this company is selling data to this company. So like that, they have like 100 different companies for 100 different jobs.
Okay.
So it's quite complex actually.
Yes.
Okay. Now I think this is today's last slide. I'll just create a difference between mutual funds and shares and leave you at that, so that it's also not very heavy and it's easy to remember and sink in. So, firstly, mutual fund is actually an investment option. It's a vehicle. Okay. And shares is ownership in a company. By buying shares, you actually become an entrepreneur. You become a part of that company by ownership in that company. But when you're investing in mutual fund, the fund manager is making decision on behalf of you. When you are buying shares, you're actively investing in that company by being an investor there. Demat account is not compulsory for mutual funds. For shares, it is 100% compulsory. For ETF, you need a demat account. ETF is somewhere between these two. Like I said, humans are very creative, so they will keep finding new ways. Now we have something called as an SIF. I'll also tell you about SIF, but that will be after we are done with everything. Then a fund manager is managing your money in mutual funds, and in shares, you or your financial advisor is doing all the decision making and the research. In mutual funds, it's more of a passive investment. You give the money to your fund manager and you're okay with it. In your shares, when you're investing via demat, you have to be in touch with your financial advisor, or you have to be more active in research and everything. Risk is low to moderately high when you are doing mutual funds. In your shares, the risk is always very high. It's not even moderate, it's almost very high always. Returns in mutual funds can be from short to very long term. You have mutual funds for 7 days, and you have mutual funds also for 10 plus years, right? So from 7 days, there are also mutual fund called as overnight fund, wherein you can store money for 12 hours. Banks use these overnight mutual funds, right? So from 12 hours to up to 10 plus years, you can have mutual funds for everything. In shares, it's normally said very long term, but you have these trading. So when we are doing the trading, we also do short term trading in shares. So you can have short to very long term returns even in shares. What are the charges involved in mutual fund? One is your fund manager charges, taxes, or something. So all of this is covered in expense ratio. So these charges we are doing much in detail towards the end of mutual fund. So now I'm not going much in detail. What are the charges involved in shares? You have brokerage that you're paying to your broking company. So Zerodha is your broking company. All of these tech companies are called as brokerage firms. They become a broker between you and your CDSL and your companies, etc., to do the paperwork. So you're paying brokerage charges to them, and you're paying government taxes in form of STT, which is your securities transaction tax. Diversification via mutual fund is very easy because you just have to select like 5 to 7 different kind of mutual fund for one person, which is ideal and fine, and you are easily diversified. When it comes to shares, it requires a lot of planning. Karishma will tell us how much planning it requires. You have to check sectors, you have to check subsectors, and you have to check if you have global exposure. So that way it requires quite a bit of detailed planning. Tax saving can be done via ELSs, and it is very easy. You invest in one ELSS mutual fund and under 80, not G, 80C. Under ATC, you can take up to 1.5 lakh tax deduction, and your money is blocked only for 3 years. And then you have capital gains, which we are going to study again. In your shares, you will always have capital gains in terms of short term and in terms of long term. The rates, I think, have changed. We'll discuss again taxes in our taxation part also. Okay, so overall, the crux is that it is very easy to diversify in mutual fund. Someone else is taking decision for you. You can invest from low to a long duration of time. When you are investing in shares, you have to become the owners. You will require either self research or a financial advisor or a research analyst to do it for you. You pay brokerage and government charges, and it requires a lot of planning to maintain your money actively in your demat account. So with this, we'll end today's class, and now it's open for discussion and your insights and your questions.
None from my side.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about whatever you said, right? About sponsor and the trustee,
Yes.
how it is. I'm still stuck there. How it is worth for them actually.
So when you reach the net worth of 10,000 crore, 20,000 crore, it's no longer about net worth. It all your whole vision of life changes. I mean, if Ambani is creating new companies every day, do you think he's doing for money? He's doing for access and power. How many more people can I get access to? How much more can I kind of control the world? Can I take over the world? I mean, Elon Musk is not doing what he's doing just for money. He is doing for power, he's doing for recognition, he's doing to become a household name. Like the demigods of 2020s, the demigods of this season, so that they become immortal via books, via their products, via their services. Same thing goes for your trustee and your sponsor. So you think Tata Nano was invented by Ratan Tata for money? Did he do it for money? No. Every single costing personnel CAs told Ratan Tata that Tata Nano is a flop with respect to money. But he did it for his passion, right? He wanted a car for families under 1 lakh rupees. He saw a very big dream. It was not for money, it was for accessibility, right? Same thing with Reliance Mobile. When they started Jio, it was not for money. It was for accessibility and making Reliance Jio or Reliance Mobile. I think you have a car? Great. Thank you. So I remember this is about 2005, 2006. We had landlines at home, right? And 2004, we had landlines when for the first time your Reliance Mobile came. In Bangalore, at least that's when it came. And it was such a big moment for us because we could not imagine having landline in our home. It was pretty expensive for us, right? First mobile had come in 2003-4. That was pretty big. You had to pay 24 rupees for 1 minute, right? So we had that also, but I'm talking about landline. So first accessibility of landline came in 2004, 2005, 2006, and we were so happy. Yes, I had that Alcatel mobile phone. In 2008, I got my first mobile phone. It was Alcatel only. So all of that tech exposure that Reliance did was not for money. They had enough money back then also. It was about accessibility. It was about becoming household name. So same is for AMC and for financial advisor. I mean, if now I am actually making Beta Financial Advisory, it is for money, but more than money, it is for accessibility. It is for power that I will get. It is for vision. It is for me becoming a household name for financial advisory, right? So now that goal is bigger than money. It is something which you cannot put in terms of money. Same thing with sponsor and trustee. At that level, your mindset is not about money. The mindset is not about paperwork because you can hire people to do everything. The mindset is to become a household name that even 200 years later, someone's child is able to sell these mutual funds and still remember the sponsor and trustee who created this mutual fund, right? So you become immortal. So it's more about immortality. It's about becoming part of generations. Right? So when we were in our CFP classes, when we were actually reading about history of NSE and BSE, BSE was started under a banyan tree by two people in 1900s. And imagine we are reading about those two people now in 2025 after 125 years. So those two people would have started with a totally different motive. And that banyan tree is still there in that Bombay. I tried to go and see it, but I couldn't in this visit. But next time, sure, I want to go there. But imagine that banyan tree has become immortal, and those two people have become immortal. We are reading about them today. So we'll read about these trustees and sponsors 200 years later also. So it's about passion. It's not about money at that stage. Thank you.
Actually, it's a very thin line dividing passion and money, it gets very difficult understanding, what could the passion be, because at the end, everybody runs for, power is A, and of course, with power, you get money.
Yeah. It's
So
all
basically, in a bigger perspective, a sponsor would attract more investments into him, making him, acquiring, or maybe that's what I understand would
right.
be a part of it.
Your net worth increases, your accessibility to rooms increases, so you can just go and shake hand with Elon Musk and say, I am a sponsor of this mutual fund in India. Are you interested in investing and expanding your tech with us? So of course, it's always that when you take bigger steps, you move into bigger rooms. It's all, it's like give and take. Ultimately, we are in a socialist, in a capitalist economy, but to take something, you have to first give. That's why give comes first. Give and take. So you have to give first, and then only you can take. So these guys gave a vision. They took the first courage to become sponsor. They hired the trustee, and now it's all about taking. And they are taking it in way of immortality, in way of becoming household names, in way of becoming accessible to people. Everything here on this table is mine. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah.